All right, the mainstream media is in hysterics over the president's return to the White House after he was treated and released for coronavirus at Walter Reed Medical Center. Here's a look at what some of the things they said.
Masks will help you. But the president made a grand theatrical gesture of whipping his off at his Sunset Boulevard return to the White House.
That is covidiacy. He's a covidiot. You're disrespecting the president. No, he disrespected the presidency.
This is a Mussolini moment. Donald Trump, who looks like he has makeup on, which means somebody had to get close enough to make up his face with his favorite orange patina.
Fear not, COVID. What a bunch of You want a metaphor? You've got a president who is a drunk driver who is pushing others to drive drunk.
Well, if that's not over the top, I don't know what is. I guess we shouldn't be shocked by much of this. Joining us now is Dave Rubin, host of the Dave Rubin Report. Dave, I mean, there's so much to get to. But before we get going on this, the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, has declassified some documents this afternoon that allege that the Russian collusion hoax was actually Hillary Clinton's idea and that President Obama was briefed on her plan to use this as a distraction from her private email servers. A letter emerged that shows that this Russia hoax was all the accusations around that Trump was actually colluding with Russia to steal the election was the brainchild of Hillary Clinton, and that she briefed the Obama-Biden White House on her plans. It was in 2016 that Clinton approved this plan to create a scandal alleging that the Republican candidate Donald Trump was involved with Vladimir Putin hacking the DNC. I know this has just kind of been coming out this afternoon. What do you think of how crazy this is?
Oh, what a web we weave when we make up a Russian collusion scandal. I mean, this doesn't sound that surprising. Because it's breaking right now, I don't want to comment too much on the specifics, but I will say this. Look, the problem is that the media ran so deep on this Russia conspiracy stuff that now, if this all turns out to be true, and if this is corroborated elsewhere, that Hillary basically brought this to the Obama administration, I mean, this is as high up as anything could possibly go. And one thing Trump is very good at is he's usually pretty ahead of things, and I suspect he probably knew about some of this and has let it go on for so long, knowing that this maybe would break right before the election.
Yeah, I'm sure that the media is going to give this just as much of attention because they invested so much in the Russia hoax that now they'll want to make sure that they get it right this time.
Oh, yes. They're very good about correcting themselves. If we know one thing about the media, they always correct themselves.
Right. Pump the brakes. If you remember, it was a few shows ago when you joined us and I talked about how apparently you held another job as running the Emmys or the Oscars. Another Dave Rubin's there. But everywhere I turn, there's Rubins. And there's a Jennifer Rubin at the Washington Post that I don't know if it's family and you guys get into these Twitter fights. I asked Congressman Jim Banks this. She tweeted that Congress might want to defund Walter Reed because apparently it's a public health hazard. You have responded to your fellow Rubin very clearly. Any MD, medical doctor, who publicly endorses this insanity needs to lose their license. And then you went on a subsequent pretty much Rubin Twitter rant response. It is unbelievable what came out of the Washington Post yesterday and the lack of response from anybody named Dave Rubin.
Yeah. First off, I want to be very, very clear for Newsmax and everyone watching this. I am in no way related to Jennifer Rubin. We do spell it the same way, but I've done the 23andMe. I've done the Ancestry thing. I talked to my dad. I've got a genealogist in my family who's traced the family back into the mid-1700s. I'm not kidding. There is no contact with Jennifer Rubin. Look, her Twitter thread is very indicative of what we saw happening out of so many members of the media the last couple of days, where they've just absolutely traded in impartiality for some version of Trump derangement syndrome. It really is a medical condition at this point. I mean, these people that are obsessed with every little move that he makes, this is not a way that we can get information across to people in a sensible fashion. So I am not related to Jennifer Rubin. I don't know what Washington Post is doing with her. She took conservative. She used to have conservative in her bio. Now she took that out, so I'm not
It's
sure
funny,
what
you
position it is.
went one way and she went the other, right? I mean, I do think that that's an interesting dynamic. She's going the wrong Rubin way.
Well, anyone that gets older, it's a strange thing. You know, a lot of people, we hear this constantly. I get tons of messages about this. The idea that you'd get, as you get older, that you'd become more conservative or that you would become more libertarian, and that makes sense.
Right.
Fiscal responsibility, things like that, individual responsibility, personal responsibility. You get over some of just the seemingly good ideas of the left that usually don't turn out to be good. The idea that you'd be middle-aged and going backwards is very, very strange.
Well, if you spend enough time at the Washington Post,
that's
what happens when you spend too much time at the Washington Post.
It's like reverse osmosis here. But Dave, I want to get your take on one of the first questions that the media, when they had a chance to talk to him after he gets out of Walter Reed, here's the first thing that they ask him. Take a listen.
Do you think you might be a super spreader, Mr. President?
One, I don't think that he's going to answer that question. But two, what a ridiculous question. That's the first thing they ask him, if he is the super spreader.
I mean, look, just nothing surprises me out of the media anymore. There are almost no journalists. Every time I say the word journalist, I have to use air quotes because they're activists, not journalists. Yet, like, he's going to turn around, take the mask off. Yes, I'm a super spreader. You got me. I mean, it's silly. Look, I don't know all of the specifics, and I don't think anyone except the doctors know all of the specifics yet as to what he was given, how he responded, what condition he's in now. That will all come out, right? Like, one way or another, it's going to come out. But the fact that he got back to the White House that quickly, the fact that he said, you know, I'm here and there are risks in the world that we have to take. And I think long term for him, or at least until the election, this is probably a win because, you know, he was not, at least in my opinion, not on his A game at the debate. He was too jumpy. Yeah. He needed to be a little more presidential, I think. And I think if this gives him a little bit of humility, a little bit of a more humble attitude towards this, I think that could play very well for him. So, you know, the journalists, unfortunately, this is what you guys want to do. Well, then you've met your match in this guy.
Yeah, it was amazing. I saw, to Lyndsay's point, when they got back, they were diagnosing him, saying that, you know, after walking up a couple flights of stairs, he was tired. I mean, it was amazing the amount. I mean, first of all, can I, just to your point, let's say he turned around and said, yeah, I'm a super spreader. Do you really want a super spreader talking to you? I mean, it was like, I kept thinking to myself, is that a really, not only a dumb question to ask, but do you really want the answer right there?
By the way, there's video of this CNN journalist who's talking about Trump taking his mask off, and then somebody leaked video of the White House press room where the second the cameras go off, what does she do? She takes off her mask and she's in a room with people. So it's theater. It's theater.
Oh, it's
You've been in that White House press room, Sean. You know what's going on over there.
Yeah, we didn't wear masks, and I wish we did.
Yeah.
For totally different reasons. Dave Rubin, always a great segment. So little time and so much to talk about. Keep tweeting. I'm glad you're back on the grid, and we'll see you soon.
All right, see you soon, guys.
All right.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.